Good evening. The Valley City Community Group welcomes you to tonight's 2021 Issues and Candidates Night. This is the last of 3 taped video sessions. Did the first 2 fire levies, the school board election, and now the township trustees elections. You can find links to all 3 of these at valleycity.org. I'm Gary Peterson, and I'll be moderating. In this session, the 5 candidates for 2 open Liverpool Township positions will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves and tell us why you want your votes. Candidates will be picked randomly picked. There will be a timer off to the left for the the front now for the candidates to see. Dave will raise his hand when there are 15 seconds left. After all candidates have presented their cases, questions submitted by you via email will be asked in random order. First will be basic yes or no answers to all candidates, followed by more detailed questions directed to specific individuals. The candidates will have 1 minute to respond. Again, Dave will put his hand in the air when there's 15 seconds left. The candidates are, in alphabetical order, James Crocker, Sean Lackey, Sean Miller, Tricia Pesey, Paul Schaefer. All right. Let's begin. First name out is Sean Lackey.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Sean Lackey, and I've lived in Valley City for the last 15 years with my lovely wife, Michelle, who's a trained equestrian horse trainer. We also have 2 horses, 4 rescue dogs, and probably a whole field full of mice. I am a first-generation Irish American. My parents immigrated from Ireland. They were farmers back over in Ireland. I attended St. Ignatius High School as well as the University of Dayton. I achieved my CPA license and worked for the international accounting firm of Ernst & Young, as well as started my own national accounting firm, the Lackey & Company. I'm a former treasurer of the Cleveland Athletic Club, former treasurer of the Valley City Chamber of Commerce. I'm also a filmmaker. I made a movie in Valley City called The Yank. I had Fred Willard at my house. Rest in peace. Great man. But I want to bring movies to Valley City, Liverpool Township, like Wellington. It could be a great boon economically for our little town. Lastly, I'm more proud of one of the greatest things I think me and my wife have done is we created a little pub and restaurant downtown Valley City called Gandalf's Pub and Restaurant. And we went from 0 employees to over 30 employees, and it's a gathering place like all public houses. It's a place where to gather in the community and learn about things that are going on so you can help each other out. I want to become a trustee because I think a trustee is somebody that runs the city services and outreaches to the community. We don't have a mayor, we don't have courts, we don't levy taxes, we don't make laws, but what we do is manage the city services with the roads, the parks, the cemeteries, the zoning, waste disposal, and the police and fire. We also lobby the Medina County as well, or state, to help out. In terms of zoning, I think we need to look at our community and address the controlled growth of our community. I think we need to take a look at the infrastructure that we have and make sure that it's not being overly tested, especially the roads and the sewers as well. In terms of waste disposal, we get to pick and choose the people picking up our trash in our community. If you ever look down 303 or 252, there's garbage all over the side of the road. That's not from people, that's from the trucks to pick up our trash. Okay, let's keep the trash in the trucks, not in our community. I think that's something we need to address. Finally, the fire department. A lot of people move into our community have no idea we have a part-time fire department. They work from 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. Some of the neighboring fire departments are 24 hours. Ours aren't. So we need to address that. We need a full-time EMS, and we need to do wellness checks on the elderly, the people that need help, the people the most vulnerable in our community, and have transparency and communicate the things we have on Twitter and all of the social media so that the people in our community know what's going on and they can make decisions as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Next up is another Sean, Sean Miller.
My name is Sean Miller, and I'm running for Liverpool Township Trustee. As a United States veteran of the Air Force, as a prior CFO of a nonprofit organization, as a prior United States Postal Service worker, as I was a mailman. No laughs, please. I love our Postal Service. I am familiar with government, am familiar with grant writing, do understand what it takes to actually make a public place run and a nonprofit place run. So those are just some of the qualities that I have administratively and financially. However, that being said, some of the other things you need as a township trustee are being invested in the community. As a business owner myself, I also am a business owner. I own Coffee in the Valley with my wife, Stephanie Miller. We've been open for about 2.5 years. We've been in Valley City for about 5.5 years. We've raised 6 kids, as well as many dogs, many animals, and love this community. We've come a long way from Lorain, Ohio, and love it here. Also, being invested in the community means getting involved with things like the frog jump. As this year, I was one of the judges in the frog jump, as well as things like Christmas in the Valley, where vendors come in, sans COVID years, where they come in and people see what they can do, what they have. Also, things like hosting events, hosting wedding parties at the coffee shop. We do a lot of things for the community, and we love Liverpool Township and Valley City. Finally, the last thing and the most important thing for a township trustee is being transparent, being able to be part of the community and show the community that what you're doing is what is good for the community. Asking yourself as a trustee, hey, is this the right thing for the community? That includes things, as Sean said, like infrastructure, looking at the water and sewer, looking at the trash on the side of the road, being able to determine what we need to do that's great for the community. I do love the township. I do enjoy living here, and I want to make a difference. That's the main thing I want to be as a trustee. So to recap, the financial and the administrative piece, I am an accountant. I've been 20 years as an accountant. I have a master's degree in business. That gives me the finance and administration skills I need to be a trustee. I also am invested in the community as a business owner. I own Coffee in the Valley. And finally, moving with transparency and integrity to be a trustee to make the decisions that are right for Valley City and Liverpool Township. I do appreciate your time, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean. Next up, Mr. Crocker.
Good evening. I'm Jim Crocker, and I respectfully ask for your vote. I'm a lifelong resident of Liverpool Township and a Buckeye graduate. I've been married to Sheila, my wife, for 44 years, and we have 3 children and 14 grandchildren. 13 of them live in Valley City. I care deeply about this community and the people who live here. I learned the value of hard work from my mom and dad working at their side on our dairy farm. We purchased the farm in '89 after my father's death. Together with my family, we've worked 365 days a year right in this community for 30 years. I know hard work, and I know the value of $1, and I won't waste yours. My business experience extends beyond my own. I served on the board of directors for many businesses over the last 30 years, Medina Landmark, Town & Country, Nova, Genex, CRI, and they all had between $100 and $250 million a year in sales. I served 6 terms as Liverpool trustee, and I have kept my promises to the voters. We have well-maintained roads, we build a park, improved downtown sidewalks, parking, streets, improved road services by putting in a salt storage facility. We bought the community center from the Buckeye School and improved it, and many more things, responsible improvements for our community. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a man of my word. I'm proud of these accomplishments, and my vision of the future would add to them. I see great opportunity to improve our park with a downtown if we could get the bridge across the river to that property that we bought on the other side, and there's a grant available right now. I recognize the needs of our residents and respect the rights of property owners. To tax to support the fire and rescue department makes sense. It gives voters the opportunity to make a choice. Our fire and rescue squad worked very hard, and even through these difficult times in the last 2 years. My support for the replacement and expansion levies reflects the change in times and a much needed increase to ensure a quick response for the residents. Our volunteers have been impacted by the mandatory overtime, and even some of them were required not to work any other places. We didn't want to burden the residents struggling financially in the last year and a half, so we decided not to run another levy then, and we dipped into the general fund to help close the gap. But this isn't sustainable. I'm also well aware that 25% of our residents are on a fixed income. This small increase in our taxes could allow us to maybe put a couple full-time paramedics on, helping to ensure a quick response. That's why we put the levy on. I will also look into other options without increasing the residents' property taxes, maybe joint ventures. I believe in a common local government without waste. I'm not a politician, just a hardworking business owner and a resident. And I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Tricia, you're up next.
Hello, it is an honor to be running for your next Liverpool Township trustee. It is a great privilege and opportunity I take very seriously. Since moving to Liverpool Township in 2003, I was drawn to the small town feel, the incredible sense of community. Not only did we have our 2 children here, but I also birthed my very own small business, Farmers Insurance Agency, in the heart of this township. It was a big leap for me to go from a corporate world to being an entrepreneur. But I knew that being surrounded by the great people in this community, it was going to be an amazing and enriching adventure. The people and businesses in Liverpool Township are what makes this area unique and special. I have made the most incredible connections to many people in this community, from the fellow parents at my children's school, to the business owners who have partnered with me or inspired me, to the people I have met on various planning committees or events. Everyone, and I mean everyone, has made a difference in my life. And now it's time for me to give back to this township that has given me so much. At my core, I believe in honesty, transparency, and engagement. Because of that, I want to be sure that all residences and businesses feel like that not only they are aware of everything that is happening behind the scenes in Liverpool Township, but also that everyone feels like there is a way to be engaged, to be heard, and to be involved in our community. Foundationally important to me is the organization, structure, and transparency of our processes, our record management, and financials. Having a strategic plan for our future will be the key to our success. This is our township, your township. And while these trustees serve a unique purpose of developing and driving a strategy for the region, we do that on your behalf for the greater good and betterment of all. As a business owner, you can imagine that organization and fiscal responsibility is extremely important to me. So I will ensure there is a primary focus on how our money is spent and constant reevaluation of where our money is going to make certain we are producing positive outcomes for all of our residences and businesses. If you know me, and those of you who don't, trust me, you will get to know me, I am certain you are all aware that I am someone who is engaged, involved, and passionate. And I get my energy by being social and collaborating with other people. I want to be the voice of this community, your voice. I want to be sure that every person here has the opportunity to shape Liverpool Township into a place that you all feel proud to call home. It will be my job and top priority to make certain that everyone has a voice, no one feels brushed off or ignored, and we look into issues before we just say there is no solution. I am a problem solver, and I am always up for a good challenge. So trust that I will always listen and do everything in my power to deliver an outcome that's best for our township, your township. Remember, Tricia PC is truly for the people.
Thank you, Tricia. And that takes us down to Paul.
Good evening. I'm Paul Schaefer. I'm a lifetime resident of Liverpool Township. I'm completing my 12th year as a township trustee, and am the 3rd generation of my family to have the privilege of serving as a trustee of this township. Prior to that, I served on the Board of Zoning Appeals for 14 years. My late wife, Patty, and I raised our 3 children here in Liverpool Township, and I've resided at the same address for the past 43 years. I married Karen in 2019, and we have 7 grandchildren between us. I'm a plumbing contractor, and along with my brother Gene, we own Schaefer Plumbing, a family business started by my late father, Cy Schaefer, in 1955. My son Daniel and son-in-law Adam are the 3rd generation of our family in the business, which is located on our family farm, which has been in our family for 113 years. I'm very interested and involved in our community. I'm the 5th generation of my family to belong to St. Martin's Catholic Church. I have a deep sense of history and have cared for our historic buildings and cemeteries. As a township, we've experienced orderly growth and have managed to keep a rural atmosphere. The reason for this is our zoning amendment, which planned for growth, as well as an industrial park, which helps provide a stable tax base for our township. Our township has the best roads in Medina County. While it's a popular topic to limit growth, we've planned for it. That's why so many people want to call Liverpool Township home. Along with trustees Keller and Crocker, we've been good stewards of the township's assets. We are working with our fire and rescue department to plan for the future staffing and need to update our fire station and our most pressing needs. We ask you to support our fire levy renewal and the 1.5 mil additional fire levy so we can continue to update our department and provide essential services. I ask for your vote so our township can continue to progress in an orderly and safe way. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, I'm Dave Smallwood, Valley City Community Group. I have the pleasure of asking the questions, many that have come in by way of email or talking to people in the township. And some are anonymous, some came in with people's names on them, and we'll recognize them as the questions come. Some of the questions are just for the present trustees. Some of them were either specifically for Jim or specifically for Paul. If they weren't specifically for one of you, I'll allow the two of you to look at each other and go, you grab that one. I know the trustees divide up many of the responsibilities in town, so I wouldn't expect Jim to answer something that Paul's responsible for. So there are a number of questions just for the new candidates, and then there are some questions for everybody. We will alternate who gets to go first on the everybody gets the question so that you're not constantly under the gun as the first guy to have to come up with an answer quickly. So with that, let's start right off with a trustee question. Paul, how much time per month do you spend on township business, meetings, phone, travel, etc.?
20 to 25 hours.
A month?
At least, yes.
Okay. For all candidates, and we're going to start with Jim, what issues do you believe need to be addressed that are not currently being addressed?
What issues do I believe need to be addressed that aren't currently being addressed?
Yes.
That's a good question. I thought we covered them all pretty good. The roads are in good shape. There's some issues that people want to change, put stoplights at intersections, that call and complain that, like 303 and Station Road, that we need to put flashing lights up there. And those issues the township trustees can't do. That's a state road and it can't be done. But one of the issues that hasn't been addressed until I had mentioned it in my speech was the other property that we own on the park. And I really would like to put a footbridge across there and complete the walking track on the other side. That's one of my goals to get done. I really don't know a lot of them that haven't been talked about.
Okay. Sean?
Well, I think an issue that we saw this summer was the flooding. We had some very severe flooding in the area, and it makes you ask the question, is it the infrastructure we have? Is it too much building? Or is it just something, an act of God to have the type of flooding we have, which was pretty severe in 1 week we had, especially I think back in July or what was it? So I think as more and more people are moving into the area, I think we do need to address and make sure that, you know, we're not putting too much too quickly. We can't tell people what to do with their land. We can't tell them they can't sell. A lot of these guys, people, these families had their land for a long time, like these guys. They've had a long time, and no, we cannot tell them what to do with their land. But we have a responsibility to the community to make sure that we're growing at a sustainable rate, and then there's not added pressures on the infrastructure and the roads. So.
Okay, thank you. Sean?
I think one of the issues that needs to be addressed is our fire department. I sat down with Chief Smith, and he had mentioned that the response times were a couple minutes higher for our fire department. Would love to see, right now we have 35 part-time employees at the fire department. Would love to see some full-time employees. I don't know how feasible that is, but I talked to him and just wondered if and when a plan will be together, because it would be great to reduce our response times for the fire department.
Okay. Tricia?
Sorry, we're sharing a mic, so.
Sharing the mic.
So mine is the same thing, is the fire department. I know it's a big issue for everybody right now. Our biggest main thing is public safety, and having people not getting picked up when they pass out or have a heart attack in a timely manner is, I think, our biggest issue. We need to help Chief Smith figure out how to address this and who we need to talk to see what we can do for this township to make all of this situation better. Do extensive research and cost studies, do all of that to see if it is feasible for us to put full-time employees in that fire station. Then we need to address it and see how we can do that. We need to go steps further. It's problem solving, and it needs to be done. And I can definitely take the steps and take the time out of my day to do so.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
I think one thing is that we need to update our fire station to give them the tools they need. The front part of our building was built in 1952. It's pretty well obsolete. It's been added on to in 78 and 84. Those areas are adequate, but I think we've proposed an idea of possibly taking down the front 1952 section of the building, replacing it with a modern two-story building that we could house office and administrative and dormitories for the fire station as we transition from a paid-on-call / volunteer department to a more full-time, which the resources of the township aren't there for a full-time department, but in the near future we're going to have to find a way to make that happen.
Yeah. Jim? Same question.
Same question. The fire department. You know, it's getting thrown that our response times are a little lower, but I'll tell you, if you drove down any of the streets anywhere, all you see is help wanted signs in front of all the businesses, and we're no different than any of the other businesses. We've had trouble with, like I said before, with employees that were mandated to work overtime at other places, and some of them couldn't even work for us because they were not allowed to work anywhere but what they were, because they didn't want to bring COVID back. And it's been tough. I mean, we know that our times were a little longer, and that's why we put the levy on. And we didn't want to put the levy on a year ago because we didn't know how bad people were damaged with people's buildings, you know, businesses, and we didn't want to hurt anybody. But it had to be done now. So that's why the levy's on the ballot. And we know we have some issues, and we've been working together to try to get it solved.
All right, I'll read a statement here, and this is a question and a statement we've gotten from numerous people. I think we all talk about it. Can housing growth in the community be slowed? For example, Hinckley is wanting to set a 5-acre minimum to build on a lot. What can we do to prevent the sale of farms to developers like Ryan Homes into large postage stamp developments, for example, like in Brunswick Hills? And Sean?
Well, I think it comes back to taking a look at our infrastructure and making sure that what we're doing right now is not putting added pressure on it. We do have bylaws that have been written that said 1-acre lots and 2-acre lots with city water and without. But we do have the controlled density zoning that the township came up with a couple of years ago, where they
30.
30 years ago to come up with it. All right, so where they get to build as much property on basically a tract of land based upon a formula. I think that needs to be revisited and looked at. And if the voters want us to make it, if they want to keep Valley City rural, like Jim's campaign for all these years on, we need to keep it rural.
Okay. Sean?
Yeah, I would agree with Sean as well. I think while you cannot control what people do with their land, you can make provisions to control the density, the 1 acre, 2 acres. I think with what Mr. Crocker said, we have rules from way back that need to be revisited, that need to be revised. We're a growing community. We can't stop the growth. We can control some of the infrastructure stuff, some of the things that are in our control. I can tell you right now, at the coffee shop, the last rain we had water in the basement that didn't go anywhere because, and I know with the trustees, it's not completely in their control with the rain, but there are things that can be done. And I believe moving forward, doing those things, getting our safety up to speed, because we have grown quite a bit. I definitely believe that.
Bishop.
Thanks. So obviously the formula, how they do the 2 acre lots is definitely something that we need to address. When they use the ravines and the rivers to divide out a piece of land, and then divide that out using those spots where you can't build a house on, that's the issue that needs to be addressed. If we want bigger lots, we have to make it so that those ravines and rivers that you can't build on, or you're going to put a street on, you can't use that towards anything. You actually have to do a spot for a house and make it 2 acres. So that is definitely something that needs to be addressed. Selling the land, like everybody said, you can't stop these farmers from selling land. But get with your community, get with other people in the community, and try to buy it. Try to do something different with it so the houses aren't built. But that is definitely the formula definitely has to change.
Paul.
Oh, I can say one thing. 40 years ago when my dad was a trustee, we had meetings and heard similar statements. Everybody wanted to be the last person to move into Valley City and how we're going to close the door behind them. And it's very simple. You can't, a lot of the farmers and the people who are selling these tracts of land don't have a family to continue farming. And their retirement is selling this land, and they have the right to do it. As far as our controlled density zoning goes, it only allows for the same number of houses to be built on a tract of land that could be developed in a conventional manner. So if you have a 30-acre lot and you could put 25 houses on it with 1 acre lots, if it had water and sewer, then in controlled density you could do the same thing, but they could be half-acre lots with more set aside. And the reason that was done was to accommodate the older community. We have people that can't take care of 2 and 5 and 1 acre lots, and this was a way to try to make affordable land in our community that longtime residents could afford to stay here and be able to keep it up.
Okay. Jim.
I get calls quite often, and we've had people come into the meeting like Mr. Schaefer said, and it's we moved here 3 years ago and we really like it. You should stop development. And my comment is, should we have stopped it 4 years ago? So if you liked it and you moved here, you liked the 1 acre and 2 acre lots when you came here, they're still good. We have to meet the developers and the landowners. If you put a thing in there that's going to make 5 acre lots, your zoning is going to get beat. They're going to go to court, and it's going to get beat, and potentially everybody, the developer or whoever sues, could sue for $2 million. And not only will they change the lot sizes, but you could get a bill on your tax bill to pay for the lawsuit. That's how it works. And you can't stand in the path of progress. I like it. I had a piece of my ground for sale, and the sign was at the corner. It said for sale, and nobody bought it. So that's what it is. And like Mr. Schaefer said, that's our retirement. That's my 401k plan. And we paid for it for 30 years, and we've got a right to sell it just like everybody else had the right to sell where you were living when you moved here. And in the United States of America, I guess you got a right to buy and sell. The roads and the infrastructure, as far as the drainage, when we have 3.5 inches of rain one day and 4 inches the next day, it's gonna be wet. And we have downtown, we have good storm sewers in here. They were cleaned and maintained and repaired a few years ago, but it is in the bottom of the valley, and it's going to drain in here. When you get 4 inches of rain, it takes a little while until when the river is 4 foot higher than the outlet, it's got to come down before it's going to drain.
Okay. We're going to go to a trustee question here. Paul or Jim can raise your hand to handle it. Is there a 5 or 10-year growth plan for the township covering finances, fire, police, and housing growth? I'm going to flip.
Go ahead, Mr. Schaefer.
We have a strategic plan that doesn't cover everything, but we do work towards that.
Okay. Back to the all candidates. And I believe we'll start with Tricia. This one.
Oh, thank you.
Why or why not would we consider going from a township to a village or a city?
So that is definitely, I am on a township. Keeping the township small, once you go to a city or a village, everything changes. We would have to have sheriffs. We would have to have definitely a big fire department, maybe even rebuilding a fire department. We have a ground as a township. We just need to put in place a strategic plan that's on paper and that's met to our goals. Without having it on paper, where are we going to go? We have to know where we're going to get to those goals. And I believe that keeping it a township is definitely what we should do and keep it as that. But we definitely need to change the structure of how everything is wrote down, strategic planning, setting up, and having our expenditure reports being at every meeting so that we know what's actually going on and we don't have to say that we gotta wait because we don't have this, it's at home. So I just think that our township just needs to be restructured a little bit.
Okay, Paul.
The biggest reason is township government is the most efficient form of government in the state of Ohio. Your tax dollars go farther in a township, and we don't have the population base to support either a village or a city at this time. You have to have a certain amount of population to reach either of those other thresholds.
Okay. Jim?
I agree with Mr. Schaefer. Legally, I don't think we could be a village or a city right now. But I'd like to respond to the record thing there. Our clerk is a phenomenal job she does. And the financial records are at every meeting. We've never had in 24 years, she's passed every state audit with flying colors, and she does a wonderful job. There's nothing financially you can't ask her that she doesn't have it on the tip of her tongue. So Mrs. Gillen does a wonderful job.
I concur, she does do a wonderful job. But also to add, if we became a city, you got legal fees to incorporate, you have a mayor, you have a court system, you have one thing that we don't have here, an income tax, most likely if you have a city. We don't want that. We all moved out here not to have an income tax. We want to be kind of off the grid. This is what you get when it feels like an American. I feel like an American living out here as opposed to when I lived in Bay Village. Talk about stringent. I feel out here we can do anything, and there's such a sense of community. I mean, everybody up here is up here because they love this town. I have nothing bad but great things to say about it, and that's because they're great people, and this is a great community, and we're very, very proud of it. We would lose that if we became a city, and that's not why we live here, and I think the best things are ahead of us as a township.
Sean?
I agree with everybody. I love Valley City. I love the small township. I love the great feel. I am from Lorain, Ohio, and being in the city and seeing how cities ebb and flow as compared to a township that just when people walk in a coffee shop or Gandalf's or any other place in the small town, you know people. I don't want to say like Norm from Cheers, but at the same time, you have people that actually know. My wife knows people's drinks, like offhand. She's telling me, reading off people's drinks. I'm like, I don't know how to make that. But we all live in Valley City for a reason. It is tough to get into Valley City. We don't want to be a city because of so many things. So the tax, the extra burden, the people, the infrastructure. We don't even have a 5-year plan now for the township. How could we possibly be a city in the future? I know we don't qualify, but if we continue to start making if we get into the half-an-acre lots that I've lived in, eventually it's going to be that, and we don't want to be there.
Okay. All right, next question, we start with Paul. How can the trustees or the township better communicate with the people of Valley City? Now, the questions that we got, a variety of the same question. Many of the people in Valley City are not electronically astute. Many would like to hear various forms of communication. So what are your thoughts about being able to communicate regularly about the business and what's going on in our community to we're up to, 5,700 some people now?
Something like that.
Paul, you're up first.
Well, I guess we could institute a newsletter. We used to have cable TV, and our meetings were broadcast on TV. The other way people can get engaged is to come to a trustee meeting. There's regularly 3 to 4 people here on an average trustee meeting night. And to be invested in a community, it takes some time, and you have to invest some of your time to do it. I mean, I see the feasibility of doing a newsletter. I mean, our website, try to keep people informed, but I understand the people that, like me, that don't care for computers and don't really want to try to learn. So.
Jim.
Yeah, we were on TV for quite a while. When they had the franchise deal, that's with Armstrong Cable, we had a free channel, and we lost that, and that's why we're still not on TV right now. I thought it was kind of nice. It always surprised me when I'd be someplace and somebody would tell me that they were watching movies or the meetings on TV, which I maybe figured they were having trouble sleeping at night or something. But it did surprise me. There was an interest in it. It would be nice to do that again, but we'd have to pay for a channel too. So.
Mm-hmm. Sean.
Well, aside from Courier Pigeon, I think one of the best ways to get the information out there is to be present, is to be downtown in Valley City, is to attend the events, is to support the events, to get people to support the events. Yeah, there's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's all sorts of social media, Instagram that we can use as well, and that we're kind of going that way. It looks like, not kind of, we are going that way, and I want to see us go there more. But I think it helps. We're all downtown, and everyone comes downtown. But if people have questions or things that they need to they know they can get a hold of us, because we're all, not only we live in this community, but our businesses are in this community. And we're 100% vested. And so being visible and out there where people could come and approach, I think that's the best thing as well.
John?
I believe there's nothing better to be said than over communication. Being able to have the information upfront, whether it be on Facebook, on the website, but also, like some of the others have said, being invested in the communities in the things downtown, or getting involved with Frog Jump, getting involved with Coffee in the Valley, or Christmas in the Valley. I always say Coffee in the Valley. It's so difficult.
I know, I do too.
But it really is about being a community. If you're going to live in a township of 5,000 people, getting together, being part of the festivities when we have the festival downtown, those are the ways that the community can get involved. The way the trustees can get involved is being as upfront and as transparent as possible and over-communicating. The days of having a letter in your box, and I get letters that are garbage, people throw them away. You now need some type of online informational system to be able to communicate, not only to the people that aren't as electronically savvy, but to some of the younger kids that really now the phone is their main way of communication and being online. So it's about communicating to everybody.
Thank you, sir. So I understand that personal and professional life, it demands a lot. So ensuring that your time coming to a trustee meeting is well spent on the ideas and questions that you have. Having to pick up the packets before and notes after, even like Sean and the other Sean said, that we're right downtown. If we have packets where we can pick up what we're going to be talking about that day, and then you can pick up a notes agenda, the meeting notes, afterwards if you don't have it. Right now we need to do an email list, an email blast. If somebody doesn't have an email or a phone, put your son, daughter, put your granddaughter on it and tell them when you get that email, you need to print it out and bring it to my house. Because those are the ways that we're going to do it. Obviously, posting on Facebook and posting on our webpage are definitely in demand, but we need to continue to grow with what this world is doing in social media and stuff like that. But also at the same time, still have a way for the people that don't want to come to the meetings all the time, know what we're going to be talking about. And if it's something on the agenda that you want to hear or have a voice about, then you come into the trustee meeting and sit here and talk to us about it.
Paul.
Oh yeah. You want to answer it again?
Answer it again.
All right, Paul, I'm going to go to you and Jim on this.
Say it in verbatim, whatever you said.
One of you can defer to the other if it's your responsibility. Is our water and sewer system capable of handling all the new developments coming in, and at what point do we worry?
First, the township has no responsibility for the water and sewer system. It's the property of the Medina County Sanitary Engineer, and they are the ones that govern who is allowed to tap in and if the system is adequate for additional development.
Okay.
100%.
Anything to add?
No.
I don't know if any of
It's
you
not
have
a
sewer
trust-
and water
It's not a
background.
trustee responsibility,
Okay,
period.
that's the answer there I guess they were looking for. All candidates, and Sean, you'll be up on this one. Would you commit to meeting with the school board to regularly strategize together on the growth of our community?
I absolutely agree with that. I think we have to do that. I think if you look at your tax bill, which I brought mine, and you look at the amount of taxes we pay, we all pay. Of our tax bill, about 16% goes to the county, about 10.5% goes to the township itself, Liverpool Township, but 67.6% of our tax bill goes to the schools. So I think we have to engage the schools with a conversation because we're all paying money for it, and all the taxpayers would want to have us engaging with them. And like everything else, like everyone has talked about, we need a plan together. It's not a fact-finding or some kind of commission. It's working together to try to take care of, all our kids go to the schools, and we support the football programs, we support the basketball and everything else, and the band. And I think as trustees, since we're part of the community, that is also part of our community, and we also need to take a leadership role to help them get to where they're going as well.
Okay. John?
Well, when you have two accountants sitting next to each other, spitting out numbers, like, yeah. I completely believe that the school board and the trustees should be actively engaged with each other. One of the things is, yes, we do pay taxes and we pay to run our schools. The other thing is those are our future leaders. The kids at the school are the people that are going to grow and become maybe a trustee, maybe a mayor, maybe a governor. At some time down the road, our investment is the investment in our kids, and the investment in the school is the investment in our kids. Getting our kids stronger, making them better, includes getting involved and being part of the school board and being involved with the school board. So absolutely, and it's our kids in our kids' best future, best interest.
Tricia?
Absolutely. Continue to work with them to figure out ways of how, when our community grows, what's going to happen in our schools. The number of kids in our classrooms right now are an excellent number. When we start to increase, and even last year, my daughter told me in 2 weeks that they had 3 new students in their classroom from just moving to Valley City. So that needs to be a priority with them and us, and we both need to be on the same page, because we don't want the number of kids in each classroom to increase where it's harder for them to get that one-on-one feel. And like Sean said, those kids are our future, and we need to give them the best education we can, and doing so is working with the board.
Paul?
I agree. We need to work with the Board of Education, not only our township, but York Township and Litchfield Township that make up our district. Especially York is seeing a very unprecedented amount of growth with new developments with small lots. And it's in all our best interest to work together to come up with a way to keep our facilities current and keep everybody up to date.
That's a no-brainer that we should work with the schools, but the township also works to try with the businesses to try to encourage tax growth to pay for the schools, which Liverpool Township has always done and pays a mass majority of the money that goes to Buckeye School System because of our industrial park. And that park has been there, and my family, I watched my dad be on the school board for 12 years, and I know Mr. Schaefer's dad was on the school board also. So I mean, it's kind of a family tradition that we work with Buckeye High School.
Okay. This next question is two-part, and it's for the new candidate. We'll start with Sean. How many township meetings have you attended in the last year? And have you studied the responsibilities of a trustee and what they are allowed to do and not allowed to do by law?
I've attended probably the last 6 meetings, and on and off over the last couple of years as well. I do go to the meetings, and I want to learn not just how it operates, but I just want to know what's going on in the community, how it's going to affect me and my wife, my family, my neighbors, personally, but also our business. We have our business downtown. We're 100% vested in the community, and that's what I want to be. I want to be somebody that reaches out and helps my neighbors, especially if I know that something's going on. So I'm probably, what was the part?
The second part is, have you studied the responsibilities of a trustee and what they're allowed to do or not allowed to do by law?
Absolutely. Again, the township is like the lowest form of government. We're there to run and manage the services. We can't make laws, levy income taxes, or anything like that. We don't have a mayor. We don't have a court. What we do is the city services, cemeteries, parks, the zoning, the fire and EMS. And like we've all said today, fire and EMS are so important to us. We have a lot of people in the community that are vulnerable. They're by themselves. Maybe they don't have kids. They don't have children or somebody to look after them. I really want to have a wellness check on those people, create a database, and if we have a 24-hour EMS department, they can do that. They can just check on them. They don't have to administer medical care, but boy, we saw with these floods that we have, if one of these people that we know that are vulnerable and they get caught out in that, they could be very tragic.
John?
In the past year, I've been to 2 trustee meetings online. What I will say is I have studied the township trustee and the responsibilities. I'm not going to know it all. I'm not going to be able to know every single rule. But what I guarantee is any decision that does happen will be in the best interest of Liverpool Township and Valley City. Unlike some of the other people that have been trustees forever, you learn as you go, you make decisions, but you also grow, and you bring a new perspective, a new focus, a new growth. And I love Valley City, I love Liverpool Township, and I look forward to serving, and that's what it's about.
Tricia?
So ever since the meetings started being aired online, I have watched every single one. The next day I have gone over and watched it at my office. If you ever walk into my office, I'm working and I either have the news on or I am listening to a trustee meeting. So again, like Sean said, you know, us coming in new, we may not have all the answers, but the difference is that we're going to figure it out. I'm a problem solver. I will figure it out until I figure a solution. So having them online for me is amazing because I co-chair Christmas in the Valley, so some of those meetings are at the exact same time, or I've accidentally made them at the same exact time. So so those are times where it's very nice to have them on Facebook, so you can actually watch them and re-watch them. But we're new, but it's time for some new blood.
Paul? Questions for trustees. What are your one biggest accomplishment, and what is your one goal that you would like to see accomplished before you would ever not be a trustee any longer?
Well, so you've taken care of all the historic buildings in the town. The reason this building is here in the condition it is because of the trustees. We bought it from Buckeye Schools. We un-Buckeyed it. We built it up. We didn't borrow a dime of money to do it. Everything here is bought and paid for. Put new roofs on it. We've built a park. Built a log cabin in the park with my friends. It didn't cost the township a dime. We built it for the bicentennial. It was done all with donations. I've worked on the depot. I rode on the top of the caboose when I was moved into Valley City from the railroad tracks with a broomstick, lifting up electric wires. I've worked in the town hall. I've pretty much worked on every building in this community. But I think the park, which went in against great opposition at the time and now is considered one of the jewels of our township, I think is one of our best accomplishments.
Okay. What one thing would you like to see accomplished that hasn't been yet?
Well, I'd like to see the park finished. As Jim said, the walking bridge and the path, and the other plan that we've been working on for a while is to add some handicapped accessible restrooms to the front of this building to make it more able to be utilized for groups.
Jim?
I'd say the park. When I came in, that's what I ran on the first time I was going to put a park in, and I made a hell of a lot of enemies when I did it. And one of the people that helped me the most was Mr. Schaefer, who jumped on board and helped me do that. And buying the school, the school board came to us and wanted to sell the school to us. I kind of thought maybe it was supposed to be given to us when they split up didn't have kids there anymore, but we ended up having to buy it. And it was me, Kathy Keller, and Mrs. Mack. And Mrs. Keller worked for the school at that time, so she had to abstain from it. So it was Mrs. Mack and myself. And again, when I met with the school the night when I came home and we were looking at buying it, my stop on the way home was at Mr. Schaefer's house where I got him to help me. So it was a team effort to get this bought, and I think it was a good thing. As far as what I want to get accomplished, before I go, I'd like to get the bridge across the river. We bought the property on the other side from Dr. Leskowitz, who was a doctor here in the 50s and 60s, and she had 20, I guess it was 20-some acres over there. And in order to put a bridge across there, they've thrown a lot of wetland challenges to us over the years because of new rules. You wouldn't be able to build any bridge over a river with the new rules anymore. But in order to do this, we're going to have the bridge about 200 feet long in order to get it out of the floodplain and floodway. And like I say, there's some grant money available right now that I'd like to see that connected with a walking path around there and maybe a fence around there so the women could feel safe walking in the park. That's one of my goals.
Okay. All right, that'll bring us to the all-candidate question. We'll start with Sean Miller. Should the township be applying for more grants, and how would you do it for preservation, improvement, and recreation areas?
There's always the opportunity to apply for more grants. It never hurts, like all of our kids, it never hurts to ask. Whether you get told no by one parent, the other parent might say yes. But it's always important to continue to get into and grow and apply for as many grants as you possibly qualify for as a township. What it would be used for is just to grow the community. And the second part of your question, I'm sorry, Dave, there was another part.
Well, how would you, where would you go? How would you do it?
There's several, not only Ohio, but national websites of grants available to townships that you can go to, that you can apply for grants, writing a specific idea. It has to be something that's a specific idea that gives you the opportunity to get that grant. So there's several national and state grant places where you can actually go to. So.
Okay. Tricia.
It's on the same line that when a kid is trying to get a grant for money to go to school, it's basically the same thing. We can get a grant and we can continue to try for the grants until there's one that says yes. And then if there's another one that says no, we need to figure out the timeline of when we can continue to try again for that grant. And a lot of people don't know there are fire station grants. There are so many grants out there. It's just taking the time to look for the specific ones that we need and then put a game plan together of who's going to write the grant out. What does the fiscal officer need help with for those grants?
Paul?
Absolutely. I mean, grants are our best aid. We've used NatureWorks grants to develop the park. We've used grant with the help of the Historical Society to renovate the one-room schoolhouse back here. And the fire department has utilized several grants for equipment, an air breathing compressor, and we have a grant out right now for a pumper tanker. And there's always room to do more. And we've utilized grant writers in the past to do that, and by all means, I think we do need to proceed with as many as we can.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, Paul, he hit a couple things there. We do hire grant writers, and the fire department, we do them all the time with the fire department. And some of the grants, you'd think that we could, but we can't because, you know, our community is affluent, and some of the grants don't come to affluent communities. Some of them come with strings too. So you gotta, we've done a pretty good job over the years of getting some grant money.
Okay. Sean?
I agree with the guys and Trish that we do go to the county in Ohio as well. And one grant that I saw in particular that we weren't applying for in August, and I'm glad we finally did, was the American Recovery Act plan. It was passed under Congress in January, and basically it sent money to the states to be passed down to the townships and cities to help them with COVID. Specifically in a line item on the State of Ohio website, we had a grant available for $566,494. huge.
We weren't not going to apply for that. Debbie was waiting for some information before she applied for it.
As of August, the deadline was September 4th, wasn't applied for, so
And she
I
applied for it.
I let them know exactly what it was. We needed to move quick, because if we had to get an attorney to make it done, we had to do that. But that's just money that's available. We can use it for public health, we can use it for a lot of different things, COVID related, and fire department. And I'm not saying you guys didn't do any or act anything at all, because it was done. So Debbie took care of it, and you guys were made aware of it. So I'm not saying the trustees didn't do anything, so this on the record.
These next two questions come from individuals on specific issues. If the new candidates are aware of them and wish to respond, please feel free. But I'll start with Jim. This is from John Seringer. So I want to know why all of a sudden in Liverpool Township there's a big rush by certain individuals to allow housing developments that is now out of control. How many homes are being built in floodplains? I stopped counting the truckloads of dirt brought in to raise foundations for trees. I did go back and get out of him, where are you talking about? His answer was the South Rim Reserve, Honey Badger, and Beaver Creek. And I assured him we would read his question.
I don't know where to go with that. The county handles all the floodplain issues, and there's certain areas that you're not allowed to build in, and you're not allowed to fill certain things, and that's all a county issue. It's not a township issue whatsoever, and the township doesn't encourage development anywhere. That's up to the private individual, and they approach the planning commission, and it depends on what type of a development it is. Okay?
Paul, anything to add?
Just planning commission, soil and water. Some of the floodway areas are also the Army Corps of Engineers, but they are all areas that the township does not control.
Okay, Sean, or Tricia, any input or comment on that? It's one of those that you may not have been aware or even heard of. Yep.
I do know that the county is the one that takes care of the floodplain. They're the ones that are saying, we're going to bring in dirt and we're going to make this sustainable for houses. So I definitely know that that is something that it's not in the trustees' hands.
Okay. And again, this one goes out to Jim and Paul, and the three of you, if you're aware of it or have comment, will certainly be allowed. This is from Sandra Morlock. Why should residents of the western section of Crocker Road vote for you? What will you do as a trustee to ensure our roads will be taken care of in the same manner as the rest of the township roads? It is clear that Columbia Township is not upholding its side of the agreements with regards to road repairs and snow removal. My guess, and I couldn't get her to elaborate more, but I'm guessing she lives on the road that is on the border with Columbia Township, and they're not taking care of their side of the road.
Crocker, Valley City takes care of Crocker Road from Station to West River, and Columbia takes care of Crocker west of Station to the border line. And she's absolutely correct. And I've met with the maintenance man, and he spoke with the Columbia, Bobby Rundle, or not Bobby, but Bobby Rundle from Columbia Station, and there's culverts that need replaced, and the road needs to be paved, and that is, they have a legitimate complaint, they really do, and that's going to have to be looked at. I mean, they promised me that they were going to pave that road, and they thought they were going to do it next year and put a culvert pipe in, and they haven't done it. So,
this is a similar situation like on Boston Road. One side Strongsville, the other side is Hills.
We have an agreement, and several. We have the Boston Road over there is a similar agreement with Columbia Station. Mr. Schaefer?
And then it's the same with Earhart Northern Road, where we, in Grafton Township, rather than split the road in half, we've agreed to split the road in the middle and everybody take care of a side, because it's just more economically feasible for snow plowing, paving, and everything else. And at least then we don't have a mess like Boston Road through Brunswick and Hinckley, where one side you can about lose the wheel of your car off of and the other side's nice. And in our township, we take great pride in the condition of our roads, and we do have the best roads of any township in Medina County, or none.
But the Crocker Road, where Columbia's taking care of it, is
It's a
typical Columbia Road.
It looks like a Columbia Station road.
Yes.
It does.
Okay, last question for each of you, starting with Tricia. What kind of procedure would you put in place for township people to file a complaint or come to you for help? How would you propose you could open the doors for that?
Obviously, one, being available. Like we all said, that we're downtown, we're available. You can make an appointment with me and walk into my office. I'm grateful that I now have 2 employees that I can employ, and that I can stand away from my actual work to take some time to talk to the community and hear what you're thinking, and actually write it down and try to find a plan to implement to help you, or tell you straightforward. I'm a straightforward person. If it's the good, bad, or ugly, it's coming at you. I'm not gonna beat around the bush or anything like that. So one, definitely getting in touch with us. Obviously having the emails, sending out an email if you don't want the emails or anything like that. Like I said, walking in, and also, you know, if you want it anonymously, we can always get a box for anonymous tips or questions or answers that you don't want to come forward about, but you want to know what the resolution is or what's going on with that situation.
Yeah. Paul?
Several ways. I mean, people call my phone all the time. I've met with people at their homes. We also have office hours daily where people can come in and express concerns and leave that with the zoning inspector, and it comes back to whichever trustee happens to be your area that you take care of. But I've have people call me, come to my shop, met with them personally on their property to see what their problem is, and a lot of times if it isn't something that's our responsibility, at least try to give them a way to go to correct the problem, to the point of mediating disputes between neighbors with their dogs barking and stuff. And had one fellow whose neighbor threw sticks over the fence every day, and then he went out and threw them back the other way, and it's 2 old guys that were acting like 2-year-olds, but finally talked to him enough and say, you know, why don't you just take your sticks and take yours and just get rid of them? And they finally decided they could play nice and live beside each other. So sometimes it's just take a little common sense approach and talk to people.
Jim?
There's not a day that goes by that I don't get a phone call or 2. And sometimes I get them 2 o'clock in the morning when I got a tree down on the road, and you'll see the trustee out there with his pickup truck and a chain and a chainsaw. Just let me go back to Sandy Morlock for 1 second.
Certainly.
Why should she vote for us? They had a drainage problem down on that road that Columbia didn't take care of forever. And we solved the problem. Mr. Schaefer and I met with them. We drained that down, and I gave them an easement across my land to drain the drain, so that we drained their whole road down through that, and we took care of that problem. And it was a big problem, actually. But yeah, my cell phone is on 24 hours, and people want to call me, I answer my phone. I take text messages. You'll never see one sent from me, but I take them all the time. But you're welcome to text me or call me, and I'll meet with you if you have any problems. I've done that for 24 years.
Thank you. Sean?
I agree with everybody. I mean, the obvious communication of phones and emails and coming to a meeting or watching a meeting, or replying to a Facebook post or a Twitter post if we have Twitter eventually. But I think it goes back to visibility and approachability. You got to be visible, that people see you downtown or in the various parts of Valley City. If you're there, people should be able to know that you're approachable, and that's what we're doing. we're being approachable because we're the voices of the community and we want to help the community. Everybody up here does. So I think that's a big part of it. And I don't think any of us would be in business if we didn't want to work with the community, let alone be sitting up here taking questions on for a position. So that goes with the job. You have to be able to be approachable and get back to people.
Okay, thank you. John?
Policies and procedures. One of the things we're all talking about is being visible, but the other thing you want to have, and I've had this problem where I've called somebody or called a place and waited 25 minutes, then to end up getting disconnected. Really, for people, if they have a complaint, if there's a problem that they have, they want it heard. Whether it's, obviously calling a cell phone, but also if you have a spot on the website where you can go to not only to file your complaint, but also the policy in place is for that person to say, in 24 hours, I'm going to respond to your complaint. Because there has to be a control. There has to not only be a place where you can make your complaints, but also a response time in lieu of that person complaining. So there is a visibility. Everybody has a cell phone. Everybody's connected. For those people that aren't online, it would also be a hotline, some type of hotline where they call and say, hey, I have this complaint. The response time they know is going to be 24 hours. And that is just about making transparency and visibility with those time frames. So I would envision something like that. I don't know the entire feasibility of it, but it definitely is something that should and can be looked into.
Okay. With that, I want to thank you all very much for being here. Many good answers, and we could probably go on for hours on the hopes, the dreams, and the goals of the township. Everybody's here for the same reason. We all love living here. I want to thank Armstrong. Armstrong is videoing this. Will soon be on their community channel, as well as we will have a link on valleycity.org on our website. We also want to thank the Valley City Concerned Citizens for Open Government for live streaming. Thank you, Jonathan Myers, for your work in getting this out. So we hope we had a large audience tonight, as well as when Armstrong gets this out, we'll be able to get out to more people. We're assuming this is some of your answers are going to probably raise other questions and may elicit other answers. So we're encouraging the people that are watching this that if something has come up and you want to ask further of a candidate or all the candidates, to send us that question to, go on valleycity.org. There's a link to get to us on our email. And send that question to us, and we will get to the candidate or candidates it's directed to and allow you to respond to it back on the website. So we're looking to get the message out to as many people. Thank you all for attending. And again, we certainly appreciate Armstrong and Concerned Citizens for Open Government. So thank you, and loosen your ties. It's over.